Okay, so picture this. It's 1946. World War II has just ended, and the United States launches the biggest naval expedition to Antarctica in history. It was called Operation High Jump. But almost as fast as it began, the whole mission just kind of vanished from the public eye. So, what happened? That's what we're going to dig into. First off, you've got to understand the scale here. This wasn't some small science team. We're talking about 4,700 military personnel, 13 ships, 33 aircraft, all sent to the most brutal, hostile environment on the planet. And here's the crazy part. This is all happening at the exact same time the US is aggressively cutting its military budget. The contradiction is it's staring you right in the face.
So, the official story? Well, it was simple and honestly kind of boring. The goal was to map the Antarctic coastline and, do some scientific studies. A totally routine post-war expedition. And that was the official line. For years, nobody really questioned it.
But when you start digging a little deeper, that official story, it really starts to fall apart. What if all that mapping and science stuff was just a cover story for a mission with a much more urgent and secret purpose?
So let's start with the timing. A mission this big makes almost no sense in a post-war America. I mean, the whole country was focused on recovering, not on launching massive new expeditions. This is really the heart of the paradox, right? On one hand, you've got Congress slashing military spending, trying to get back to peacetime. On the other hand, the government is greenlighting this massive, super expensive trip to Antarctica. So you have to ask yourself, what on earth could justify that kind of spending at that exact moment in history?
And this is where the story takes a really strange turn. The mission was fully supplied and planned to last for 6 to 8 months, but they turned around and came home after just 2. There was no big press conference, no public report explaining why. They just packed up and left.
To even begin to understand what might have gone down, we have to look at the man in charge, the one and only, the legendary polar explorer, Admiral Richard Byrd.
And look, Byrd wasn't some reckless adventurer. This guy was a legitimate American hero. We're talking the first flight over the North Pole in 26, the first over the South Pole in 29, a trans-Antarctic flight in 34. He had a Congressional Medal of Honor, for crying out loud. He even survived 5 months completely alone in the Antarctic winter. This was a man people listened to. His words carried serious weight.
And that's important because on his way home from this mission that was cut short for no reason, he gave one single, very strange interview. And what he said? It completely blows the whole scientific mapping trip story right out of the water. Yeah, this is the bombshell. He's on his way back and he decides to talk to a Chilean newspaper, not an American one, which is weird in itself. And he says, and I'm quoting here, the United States must take protective measures against the possibility of attack from the polar regions. He said this wasn't just a guess. It was based on what he saw with his own 2 eyes.
So that's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? What could a guy like Admiral Byrd, a measured, decorated national hero, what could he have possibly seen down there that would make him go public with a warning like that, probably without any official permission?
Okay, let's dive into the mission itself. Because when you look at the gear they brought with them, that whole scientific research thing starts to look, well, pretty unbelievable. I mean, think about it. You just don't need an aircraft carrier, submarines, and a bunch of marine infantry to go map some ice. This was a full-blown military task force. Seriously, it was run by the same command that planned major battles in the Pacific during the war. These guys planned operations against enemies, not glaciers.
And things went wrong. There were losses. On December 30th, 1946, a plane with 3 guys on it just vanished. Now, they did eventually find the wreckage, but it was miles and miles away from where it was supposed to be. The official story was bad weather, pilot error, but there was never a public inquiry. The whole thing just got swept under the rug.
Now, what happened after the mission is almost more revealing than the mission itself. The silence around Operation High Jump wasn't just temporary. It got set in stone, literally, by international law. Just look at this timeline, okay? High Jump ends suddenly in 47. Admiral Byrd, he does one more mission, but then he dies in 57. And he never, ever spoke publicly about High Jump again. Then, just 2 years after he's gone, boom, the Antarctic Treaty is signed. I mean, that timing is a little too perfect to just be a coincidence, right? And wow, what a treaty this was. We're in the absolute thick of the Cold War, right?
The US and the Soviet Union are at each other's throats, and yet they, along with 10 other countries, all agreed to completely demilitarize an entire continent. No military activity, no digging for resources, forever. And get this, for more than 60 years, that agreement has held. Not a single serious violation. This is an era where nations couldn't agree on the time of day, but this one, single, absolute agreement over Antarctica, has stayed rock solid. You have to ask, what could they have found that would create that kind of unity between bitter enemies?
Okay, let's fast forward to today, because now, with technology that Admiral Byrd could only dream about, we're finally starting to get a peek at what's really under all that ice. So using this incredible ground-penetrating radar, scientists have basically mapped the entire landmass of Antarctica buried under miles of ice, and what they found is a hidden world. We're talking mountain ranges, huge lakes, entire river systems, a landscape that was clearly at one point much warmer and could have even supported life. And here's where it all connects back. In the exact same coastal areas that Byrd's expedition was exploring, these radar scans have picked up subsurface structures that, well, they aren't easily explained by normal geology. And if you go look at the published scientific papers, these strange anomalies are almost never talked about. So when you step back and look at the whole picture, you see this undeniable pattern of silence. Right? You've got an expedition that's cut short with no good reason. You've got a national hero who gives one incredibly cryptic warning and then shuts up about it forever. The official report from the operation was never released to the public, and now you have modern science that seems to be avoiding talking about some very weird things showing up on their radar. And all of that brings us back to the one final question. You don't send 4,700 men to the end of the earth just to map some ice. You don't make an unbreakable treaty to lock down an entire continent with your mortal enemy unless you have a very compelling reason. So, what could they have possibly found down there? What discovery could be so world-changing, or maybe so dangerous, that it had to be kept secret for over 75 years, uniting the entire world in a vow of silence?